believes Atalan. Every single Game 1 Dry Arabia was an Aztec war, but so far we've now seen 2 of these free pick games in the best of 7 knockout stages for the Arabia 1v1 Invitational, and so far we haven't seen an Aztec war. Both times one player has elected to pick Mayans, that being Doubt against Yo in the first quarter final that was played in the very early hours of Saturday morning or Friday night, depending on your time zone. But anyway, in this time it's Chris choosing to pick Mayans, and Vinchester choosing to pick Aztecs. So let's have a look at the maps first of all. We see Vinchester over here on the right hand side in the blue as the Aztecs. And really his map is looking kind of bad. As I was talking about with the WSVG tournament, that was played on Dry Arabia where... Oh, sorry about the overlay. Thank you, Nemino. I haven't been showing anything of the maps, I've just been hovering over the town centre thus far whilst talking about the civilization, so you haven't missed anything. But this is the first real action that's actually taking place in the game. We see Chris stealing in and nicking a couple of sheep here from Vinchester. So Vinchester doesn't actually have any sheep under his town centre at all. And Chris is actually going to head over and try and get another couple perhaps as well, taking a hit on or two on his Eagle Warrior. In fact, judging by the number of sheep that were here, I wonder if those were actually Chris's sheep. It's really hard to tell, but we can see a huge... And we got a boar steal here. So the Eagle Scout of the Mesoamerican civilizations is incredibly good at steering boars because it doesn't quite run as fast as the Scout cavalry of the other civilizations, and so we see so many boar steals in Meso Wars, and that's what we've got here. It seems that Chris's Eagle is still on a decent amount of HP to actually make it the short distance back to the map. Chris looked in danger of kind of losing the boar. He got a little bit too far away from it, but it retained its aggression. Vinchester's choosing to try and hit the Eagle Warrior instead of blocking the boar too much, and I don't think that Vinchester will actually be successful in stopping this boar steal. Chris is going to be successful with this, and that's pretty huge with Mayans, of course, because the boar counts for even more with the Mayans 20% extra. Our boar actually stops just outside the TC, but Vinchester having to micro to dodge, and it's still heading back. I wonder if Vinchester will actually try and take it back with his Eagle. But Chris reacts just in time, gets a villager, and he's now managed to get that boar in. That was so much more complicated than it seemed it would be at first once Chris got back to here, but the boar losing its aggression in the last moments. Vinchester now actually taking 28 hit points of damage on his TC. I'm still confused about whose sheep are whose, because actually Chris has 2 here that he hasn't taken. I don't know whether he can actually... No, he hasn't seen those yet. We can see by his scouting pattern he found his main gold in his berries, 1 wood line, and then headed straight out across the map and ran straight into Vinchester's boar from up here. So that means a 1 boar advantage for Vinchester now, and I really think that he must be 2 sheep down at this point. He hasn't found these, but I think Chris has also taken at least 1 or 2 of his as well. It was hard to tell because there were some that were thrust out in the middle of the map between the 2 players. But I think Vinchester's going to be really struggling for food now. Something that Aztecs like to do, of course, is to do a very powerful 5 militia drush using the extra gold that they have in the bank from not having to do loom. But with a boar missing and potentially a couple of sheep as well, Vinchester's going to be struggling to have collected the total amount of food to do that 5 militia and still click up at a decent time. So heading out to try and get these deer to try and supplement his food income, and he is actually going to find those sheep, which is really crucial that he does so he doesn't fall too far behind in food count. Meanwhile, Chris reaping the rewards of that boar steal, still got a ton of natural food under his TC, and we can see that he was briefly a little bit ahead in villages as well, even though Aztecs start off with that loom already researched. Obviously the Mayans getting their extra villager as well, but Chris on the way to the feudal age now. It's 7:52, so pretty fast feudal and no drush from him. It's not uncommon to see a boar steal followed up by a drush, considering that the opponent will have a harder time drushing and potentially transitioning into a drush flush off the back of that with their boar stolen. But Chris not doing that. He's going to go straight to the feudal age, and he may actually end up getting his barracks denied, because Winchester has still managed to 3 militia drush here, and the Eagle's still on an okay amount of HP to help out with the fight. And Chris has done a very kind of ambitious barracks. I don't know whether up until this point he actually knew that Winchester was still going to be doing a drush at an okay time off the back of the boar steel, but one villager going down for Chris, and I feel like Chris has taken really unnecessary losses here just by trying to be too adventurous with this barracks, and has now reached the feudal age. I want to check if he saw the barracks from Winchester. He didn't see the barracks, so he didn't know that drush was incoming, and was perhaps slightly surprised to see it. The advantage of going quickly to the feudal age after stealing all of that stuff now being slightly wasted by the fact that he has lost a villager and could be about to lose a second, and has had his barracks denied this entire time, and that is indeed 2 villagers down. So Chris lost 2 villagers to Winchester's drush despite stealing a boar, and having gone up to the feudal age with an advantage, he's now unable to capitalise on that and do a quick attack with archery range units. It's just about getting that archery range down now, but he's had one lumber camp completely inactive for this entire time. In fact, besides the straggler tree gathering, that was his only wood income, was on this lumber camp. So his ability to actually make something happen with this fast feudal after stealing the boar has been completely devastated by Winchester, surprising him with that drush from the barracks that he didn't scout. And now Winchester is on the way to the feudal age himself. Currently he has a 4 villager advantage, which will be more or less equalled out by the time he actually reaches the feudal age, and Chris has continued to produce villagers during that time. But I feel like Winchester's economy is going to be in a much healthier state despite having lost that boar and a couple of sheep initially, because he has been milling deer, and otherwise his economy at home has been uninterrupted and looking pretty efficient with split lumber camps, etc., and nothing too messy going on here. Chris is actually going to think about trying to shift the aggression back to Winchester's base really quickly, sending 3 villagers forward plus an archer and his eagle warrior, but he sent forward 1 hurt villager, which is never the best idea with a forward. Didn't even actually drop the resources that those villagers were carrying as well. He could have dropped off another 25 wood or so before sending those villagers forward, which would have really helped him, considering he was struggling to gather wood for all that time. So he tried to do a tower here that he was forced to delete because Winchester had the map presence with the villagers to come and rush out, and now 3 more villagers coming in from behind here, and it's kind of lucky for Chris that Winchester didn't manage to target this villager, but it looks like that. Okay, the archer getting in the way and just managing to block it, taking a slight hill bonus there and forcing some of those villagers back. It seems like Winchester's going to lose this villager. I guess he was trying to take out the eagle at the loss of the villager there, but this could give Winchester just enough time to get a tower up on his gold. It seems he's really desperate for that. At the moment, his only other way of defending is 1 skirmisher at a time from this archery range, trying to do some quick walling up here, and has in fact actually succeeded in doing that. That blacksmith is only on 152 HP, but Chris has only got 2 villagers here, and Winchester actually deleted that blacksmith. Oh, great rewall there. I was wondering why he deleted the blacksmith, but actually allowing him to just retreat and get some more HP and seal Chris out for a little longer. He can, as long as he remembers to delete this now before all the HP. Yes, well done from Winchester. So he's done a great job there for a kind of tactical construction retreat. Those villagers very much functioning as combat engineers, just continually rebuilding the front line of fortifications and allowing Winchester to keep the rear of his economy safe from Chris's archers. But now Chris is starting to threaten with a good number of military units. We can see he's up to 13 archery range units, and along with his eagle at this point, and a tower coming up on Winchester's only wood line that he's gathering from at this point. One skirmisher going down here. These 3 villagers falling idle for Winchester, and archers coming in on the mill of Winchester. 1 more villager going down, and I know there were more weak villagers around here for Winchester. He's going to have to try and fight this with the villagers, because he just doesn't have enough skirmisher numbers or production capacity with just the 1 range. Winchester's doing his best to try and funnel those archers towards the TC, proving kind of effective, enabling him to pick off 2 with the town centre fire, but he's going to be absolutely struggling to gather wood at this point. And right now his economy is looking very, very messy. Kind of the reverse of what was happening, or the mirror of what was happening in Chris's base in the first few minutes of Chris being in the feudal age. Winchester is now really struggling to gather much of anything besides this safe gold. This wood line looking terribly inefficient and still under fire from towers. Chris also coming over here with more archers, picking up what looks like 2 more villagers on this wood line. And I really think Chris has started to exert a ton of control over this game now, after initially squandering his advantage with the stolen board due to not scouting that direction, being a little bit too ambitious with his barracks. Good micro of him, allowing him to pick off villager after villager after villager here, and that's GG. Winchester just completely unable to control Chris as he moves around his economy, picking off villager after villager, not actually having the production ability. I mean, I think if Winchester had had 2 ranges up and been able to produce skirmishers, he may have been able to defend this just fine. But that wasn't the case. Chris kind of did abuse that early resource advantage that he had taken, delayed somewhat by Winchester's drush, but ultimately nice move with the forward tower. I was getting up a tower at the second attempt in a good spot and denying Winchester the ability to take wood in particular, and then coming over here with his archers and microing against the rest of the villagers to take a commanding lead. So let's quick look at the achievements. Winchester did collect a little bit more food, but importantly Chris with a lot more gold, allowing him to produce lots of archers and start picking off those villagers, and that is reflected in the kills to death ratio, very much in favour of Chris. So really fast Meso-American war here. Winchester did actually reach the villager high, but I imagine that will have been tumbling dramatically whilst Chris was starting to pick off those villagers in his base after a while.